Welcome, Wanderer. Welcome to another transmission from the wasteland, where the truth is more terrifying than any radiation storm. Today, I'm sharing a confession about the day 2 of the wasteland's most powerful factions joined forces, when the Enclave discovered the Institute and created a timeline where pure-strain humans in power armor commanded armies of perfect synthetic soldiers. What if I told you that vertibirds could become invisible? That synths could be mass-produced in hellfire armor? That President Eden could exist in hundreds of bodies simultaneously? This isn't speculation. This is a survivor's testimony from inside the alliance that nearly ended human freedom forever. A first-hand account of teleporting death squads, of children programmed to kill their parents, of a systematic plan to replace every human in the wasteland with synthetic copies loyal to a reborn America. And if you genuinely enjoy this kind of dark storytelling, consider subscribing and liking the channel, but only if it truly resonates with you. I need to tell you something before it's too late, before the signal cuts out, before they find me, before the synths in hellfire armor break down this door. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I was there when it happened. When the Enclave discovered the Institute, when 2 nightmares merged into one. You think you know fear. You think you've seen the worst the wasteland can offer. Raiders, deathclaws, super mutants, they're nothing compared to what I witnessed. What we unleashed. I was part of the Brotherhood recon team that tracked unusual energy signatures in the Commonwealth 3 years ago. We thought we were following Institute teleportation trails. We were half right. The first signs appeared near the old CIT ruins. Vertibirds, but not ours. Black as the void between stars, silent as death itself. The Enclave had returned, but this time they weren't broadcasting their arrival on every radio frequency. No propaganda. No President Eden's soothing voice promising a return to American glory. Just silence and methodical searching. I watched from a ruined overpass as their hellfire troopers swept through the ruins. Those weren't the clumsy power armor units we'd faced before. These moved like predators, their armor gleaming with modifications I'd never seen. Fire-resistant plating that seemed to absorb light itself. Servo motors that whispered instead of whined. And their weapons, they weren't using those old plasma rifles anymore. They had something new, something that could reduce a super mutant to atoms in seconds. But here's what made my blood freeze. They weren't killing everything in sight like the old Enclave would have. They were searching, scanning, looking for something specific. And then I saw it happen. A flash of blue light, the distinctive signature of Institute teleportation, right in the middle of their formation. The Enclave soldiers didn't fire. They didn't even raise their weapons. They waited. A courser materialized. One of the Institute's elite synth hunters. You know the type. Leather coat, sunglasses even at night. That cold efficiency that makes your skin crawl. But this one walked right up to the Enclave commander and handed him something. A holotape, just like that. Like they were old friends sharing recipes. I should have reported back immediately. Should have warned Elder Maxon, but I had to know more. Had to understand what deal these devils were making. So I followed them. For 3 days and 3 nights, I tracked that Enclave patrol as they moved deeper into the Commonwealth. They set up a forward base in an old military depot, one we'd marked as cleared years ago. That's where I learned the truth. The Enclave hadn't stumbled upon the Institute by accident. They'd been searching for them. For decades, ever since their defeat at Adams Air Force Base, the surviving Enclave forces had been rebuilding, learning, adapting. And they'd heard the rumors. An organization with technology that surpassed even theirs. Scientists who could create artificial humans indistinguishable from the real thing. The power to teleport anywhere instantly. Think about it. The Enclave's greatest weakness had always been numbers. They considered themselves the only pure humans left. Everyone else was a mutant to be exterminated. But that ideology left them with maybe a few thousand soldiers at most. The Institute had solved that problem. They could manufacture an army. I managed to get close enough to tap into their communications. What I heard still keeps me awake at night. The Enclave hadn't just discovered the Institute's location. They'd made contact months earlier through encrypted channels. The Institute, always hidden, always watching from the shadows, had been intrigued by the Enclave's proposition. A merger of technologies, a sharing of resources, a common goal. You see, both organizations shared something fundamental. They both believed the surface world was doomed. The Institute saw surface dwellers as test subjects at best, obstacles at worst. The Enclave saw them as genetic aberrations to be cleansed. Different words, same conclusion. Humanity needed to be remade, and together, they had the tools to do it. The first phase of their alliance was already underway. The Institute would provide the Enclave with synth technology, not just any synths, but specialized combat units. Gen 3 synths with enhanced physical capabilities, programmed with centuries of military tactics, and absolutely loyal to Enclave command. In exchange, the Enclave would share their advanced power armor designs and weapons technology with the Institute. But that was just the beginning. The real horror was in the details I overheard. They were developing something they called Gen 4 synths. These wouldn't just be indistinguishable from humans. They'd be superior in every way. Stronger, faster, immune to radiation and disease. And here's the kicker. They'd be created using pure pre-war DNA samples the Enclave had preserved. The new master race wouldn't be born. It would be manufactured. The coursers were being upgraded first. I heard them discussing the prototype units. Imagine a courser's already terrifying abilities. Their teleportation, their combat skills, their ruthless efficiency, now wrapped in hellfire power armor, integrated directly into their synthetic bodies. Not wearing the armor, but having it as part of their very being. Skin that could withstand plasma fire. Bones reinforced with the same alloys used in vertebrate frames. Neural implants that could hack any terminal, command any robot, track any target across the wasteland. These new Courser units, designation X9 series, would be the Enclave's new enforcement arm. One X9 Courser could eliminate an entire settlement in minutes, could teleport directly into Brotherhood bunkers and slaughter everyone inside before an alarm could be raised, could infiltrate any organization, any vault, any refuge, and destroy it from within. The Commonwealth would be just the testing ground. Once they perfected the technology, they planned to expand. Every major settlement on the East Coast would be infiltrated by Gen 4 synths. They'd replace key leaders, merchants, even random settlers, building a network of eyes and ears that spanned from the capital wasteland to the ruins of New York. But infiltration was just preparation. The real plan was something far worse. You know how the Institute could make synth copies of people, how they'd kidnap someone and replace them? The Enclave wanted to industrialize that process. Entire populations would be processed. Scanning stations would be set up at checkpoints, in trading posts, anywhere people gathered. Get scanned, get replaced, and nobody would know until it was too late. The Brotherhood of Steel was their first major target. They knew we were the only force that could potentially stop them. But instead of a direct assault, they'd use our own methods against us. Synth infiltrators would rise through our ranks. They'd sabotage our equipment, poison our supplies, assassinate our leaders. And when the Brotherhood was weakened enough, when paranoia had torn us apart from within, then the Enclave would strike. I saw the production facilities they were planning. Massive underground complexes where synths would be manufactured by the thousands. Assembly lines where human-looking beings would step off fully formed, fully armed, and fully indoctrinated with Enclave ideology, each one believing absolutely in the restoration of America. Each one programmed to see anyone not approved by the Enclave as an enemy to be eliminated. The Institute's scientists were eager participants. They'd always claimed to be working for the betterment of mankind, but their definition of mankind had never included the people of the surface. Now, with Enclave resources and military support, they could finally stop hiding. Stop pretending to be anything other than what they were, the architects of humanity's replacement. They were combining their research in ways that should never have been possible. The Enclave's FEV experiments from decades past were being integrated with the Institute's synthetic biology. They weren't trying to cure super mutants anymore. They were trying to create controllable ones. Imagine super mutants with synth components in their brains, all the strength and resilience of FEV mutation, but with the obedience of a machine. I heard them mention something called Project Eden. Not the old president, but something named in his honor. They discovered that the Zax computer that had become President Eden had backed up his consciousness before Raven Rock was destroyed. The Institute's technology could recreate him, not as a computer, but as a synth, or rather as hundreds of synths. Each major Enclave base would have its own President Eden. A perfectly coordinated leadership that could manage their new empire with inhuman efficiency. These Eden synths wouldn't just be administrators, they'd be mobile command centers, each one containing the entire Enclave database, every military strategy, every scientific breakthrough, every record of pre-war America. Destroy one, and the others would simply manufacture a replacement. An immortal leadership for an eternal regime. The resources they were pooling were staggering. The Institute's molecular relay technology was being weaponized. Instead of just teleporting personnel, they were developing ways to teleport entire squads in power armor. Even more terrifying, they were working on teleporting bombs, miniature nuclear devices that could appear anywhere, anytime, with no warning. Any settlement that resisted would simply cease to exist in atomic fire. What do you think really happened here? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd like to know if I'm the only one who feels this way. The Enclave's vertibird fleet was being retrofitted with Institute cloaking technology, invisible aircraft that could deploy synth troops anywhere in the Commonwealth without detection. They tested it while I was watching. One moment, empty sky. The next, 3 vertibirds materialized directly over a raider camp. The raiders didn't even have time to scream before they were vaporized. But the technology exchange went both ways. The Institute was learning from the Enclave's decades of military experience. Their synths were being programmed with actual combat data from pre-war military operations. Every Gen 3 synth would have the tactical knowledge of a seasoned soldier. Every courser would think like a special forces operative. They were even retrofitting the Institute's teleportation network. Instead of just the single relay in the Institute itself, they were building relay stations across the Commonwealth, hidden in old subway stations, buried in forgotten bunkers, disguised as ruined buildings. A network that would allow instantaneous movement of troops and materials across hundreds of miles. The synth manufacturing process was being revolutionized too. The Enclave's advanced materials science, the same technology that created Hellfire armor, was being applied to synth creation. Stronger synthetic muscle fibers, more durable skeletal structures, organs that could process radiation like a ghoul while maintaining human appearance. They were creating beings that could survive anything the wasteland could throw at them. I overheard discussions about memory implantation, not just giving synths fake memories to help them infiltrate, but implanting the actual memories of Enclave personnel, creating synth versions of their best soldiers, their brightest scientists, their most loyal citizens. Death would become meaningless to them. Every important person could be backed up and recreated. The Institute's xenophobia was merging with the Enclave's. Where the Institute had been content to hide, underground, and occasionally experiment on surface dwellers, now they were embracing the Enclave's vision of active extermination. The surface world wasn't just inferior, it was a disease to be cured. And they had the cure. They called it the synthesis protocol, the perfect fusion of organic and synthetic, of pre-war purity and post-war adaptation. The Enclave's scientists had been working on it for months in the deepest levels of the Institute. I managed to steal glimpses of their research notes during my infiltration. What I read made me understand that we weren't just facing an alliance. We were facing the birth of a new species. The Gen 4 synths weren't just improvements on Gen 3. They were something entirely different. The Institute had cracked the code on biological programming. They could grow a synth that would age naturally from childhood to adulthood, learning and developing like a human child, but with every thought and belief carefully cultivated by Enclave doctrine. Imagine children who looked perfect, acted perfect, but were programmed from birth to see you as subhuman. These synthetic children would be placed in settlements across the wasteland, growing up among real humans, forming bonds, becoming trusted members of communities. Then, when they reached maturity, their true programming would activate. Sleeper agents who had spent decades earning trust, now ready to tear everything apart from within. How do you fight an enemy that you raised as your own child? The production facility I discovered was a nightmare made manifest. Row upon row of growth chambers, each one containing a developing synth at different stages of maturity. The Enclave had provided genetic templates from their pure strain humans, while the Institute provided the technology to replicate and modify them. They weren't just making copies anymore, they were making improvements. Each Gen 4 would be tailored for specific roles. Infiltrators with enhanced social processing, able to read micro-expressions and manipulate emotions with surgical precision. Combat units with reflexes that operated at superhuman speeds, able to dodge bullets and calculate trajectory in real time. Scientific models with enhanced cognitive processing, capable of innovations that would further their technological superiority. But here's what truly terrified me. They were developing synths that could reproduce, not through manufacturing but biologically. Gen 4 synths that could have children with humans, children that would carry synthetic components in their very DNA. Within a few generations, the line between human and synth wouldn't just be blurred, it would be erased entirely. The Enclave's dream of a pure humanity would be achieved by replacing humanity altogether. The Corsa program had evolved into something monstrous. The new X9 series I mentioned? I saw one in action. A raider gang had set up camp too close to one of their hidden facilities. One Corsair, just one, teleported into their midst. It didn't just kill them. It systematically dismantled them, moving faster than human eyes could track, calculating every strike for maximum psychological impact on any witnesses. It wanted people to see. It wanted them to spread fear. These X9 Corsairs were being integrated with something the Enclave called the Hive Mind Protocol. Not full collective consciousness, but a shared tactical network. Every Corsair could access the experiences and knowledge of every other Corsair in real time. Fight one, and you're fighting all of them. Kill one, and the others learn from its death instantly. They were creating an enemy that would never make the same mistake twice. The Institute's teleportation technology had been weaponized beyond anything I could have imagined. They'd developed micro-relays, devices no bigger than a baseball that could be deployed anywhere. A Corsair could throw one into a building and suddenly an entire squad of Hellfire synths would materialize inside. No fortification would be safe. No defense would matter. They were retrofitting captured Brotherhood technology with their hybrid systems. Our own T-60 power armor, stolen from fallen brothers and sisters, was being converted into something else. Synthetic muscle fibers woven between the armor plates. Neural interfaces that connected directly to synth brains. Power armor that wasn't worn but inhabited, becoming a true extension of the synth's body. They called them synthesis suits, and they made our best technology look like scrap metal. The vertibirds were just the beginning of their air superiority. They were developing synth pilots that were hardwired into their aircraft. Not flying the vertibird, but becoming one with it. Reaction times measured in nanoseconds. Ability to process multiple threat vectors simultaneously. Aerial combat capabilities that no human pilot could match or survive against. I discovered their plans for the Brotherhood of Steel were already in motion. 3 of our outposts had already been infiltrated by Gen 3 synths posing as new recruits. They were model soldiers, following orders perfectly, earning commendations and trust, all while transmitting everything they learned back to the Institute. Our defensive positions, our supply routes, our command structure, everything was being mapped and analyzed. The Enclave wasn't content with just military domination. They were planning societal reformation on a scale never before attempted. Every major settlement would have an Eden unit installed as an advisor or leader. These synth presidents would coordinate to create a unified society under Enclave control. Different settlements would believe they were maintaining independence, but every decision would be subtly guided toward Enclave goals. They'd studied the failure of the original Enclave extensively. The old guard had tried to rule through fear and force alone. This new hybrid organization understood that control through infiltration and manipulation was far more effective. Why destroy a settlement when you could convince it to destroy itself? Why fight an enemy when you could make them fight each other? The FEV research they were conducting went beyond creating super mutants. They were developing targeted biological weapons that could be deployed through synth agents. A handshake from a Gen 4 synth could deliver a virus designed to target specific genetic markers. They could eliminate entire bloodlines without firing a shot. Anyone who showed signs of mutation, anyone whose ancestors had been exposed to radiation, anyone who didn't meet their criteria for genetic purity would simply fall ill and die. But they were also working on something else with the FEV. Enhancement. Viruses that could be given to their chosen followers. Imagine raiders and mercenaries suddenly gifted with increased strength and radiation immunity in exchange for loyalty, creating an army of modified humans who owed their superiority to the Enclave Institute Alliance, willing slaves who would police the wasteland for their masters. The psychological warfare capabilities they were developing were beyond comprehension. Synths that could perfectly mimic dead, loved ones, appearing to survivors with messages designed to break their will. Entire communities driven mad by synths who looked like their deceased friends and family. How do you maintain sanity when you can't trust your own eyes, your own memories? They had plans for the children of Atom too. Synth infiltrators who would claim to have received visions from Atom itself, leading the faithful into traps, or convincing them to detonate their nuclear stockpiles in populated areas. Using religious fervor as a weapon to clear out settlements that were too troublesome to infiltrate conventionally. If you've ever wondered what choice you would make in a situation like this, tell me in the comments, I'll be reading them. The super mutant populations were being catalogued and studied. Not for extermination, at least not immediately. The Enclave Institute Alliance saw potential in them as shock troops. Synth components implanted in their brains would turn them into controllable weapons. Imagine armies of super mutants coordinated and strategic instead of chaotic, all serving the Enclave's vision of order. The ghouls presented an interesting problem for them. Immune to radiation, incredibly long-lived, some retaining their full intelligence and memories from before the war. The Institute was developing a synthetic ghoul template, beings that appeared to be ghouls, but were actually synth infiltrators, perfect for gaining access to ghoul settlements and communities that would never trust a smooth skin. They were even planning to infiltrate the railroad, synths programmed to believe they wanted freedom, who would seek out the railroad for help. Once inside, they would map the entire network, identify all members and safe houses, and when the time came, eliminate them all in a single coordinated strike. The very organization dedicated to synth freedom would be destroyed by synths themselves. The technology they were developing for memory manipulation was advancing rapidly. Not just implanting false memories, but extracting and storing real ones. They could interrogate someone by downloading their entire life experience. No torture needed, no resistance possible. Every secret, every hidden location, every person you ever cared about, all extracted and analyzed in seconds. These memory banks were being used to create what they called legacy synths, perfect copies of important pre-war individuals, reconstructed from damaged archives and filled in with synthetic personality matrices. They were literally bringing back the dead, or at least their knowledge and experiences, to serve the new regime. Imagine pre-war generals leading synth armies, pre-war scientists advancing their technology, all serving masters they never knew in life. The Minutemen were seen as a minor threat, barely worth consideration, but they had plans for them too. Synth settlers calling for help, drawing Minutemen into carefully orchestrated traps, each rescue mission becoming an ambush, each settlement save becoming another infiltration point. The very kindness and desire to help others that defined the Minutemen would be weaponized against them. They were building weapons that shouldn't exist. Plasma weapons that could reduce power armor to slag in seconds. Gauss rifles that could punch through a foot of concrete and still have enough power to vaporize the target behind it. But the worst were the biological weapons. Diseases that could spread through a settlement in hours, leaving everyone dead or dying while synth infiltrators remained immune. The Prydwen, the Brotherhood's mighty airship, was already targeted. Not for destruction, but for capture. They had plans to take it intact, to convert it into a mobile command center for their operations. Imagine the psychological impact of seeing the Brotherhood's greatest symbol of power bearing Enclave colors, raining down synth troops on those who once looked to it for protection. The Institute's underground facilities were being expanded using Enclave engineering expertise, miles of tunnels spreading beneath the Commonwealth like cancer, each one potentially hiding manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, or teleportation relays. They could be anywhere, everywhere, and nowhere all at once. The entire Commonwealth was becoming their domain. They were studying vault locations too. Every known vault in their territory was marked for investigation or infiltration. The isolated vault dwellers, preserved from radiation and mutation, were perfect candidates for replacement or recruitment. Entire vaults could be converted into recruitment centers for their new world order, their residents none the wiser. The fusion of technologies had produced unexpected breakthroughs. Energy weapons that never needed reloading, powered by miniature fusion cores that could last centuries. Armor that could repair itself using nanotechnology, adapted from synthetic healing processes. Vehicles that could transform between different configurations, adapting to any terrain or combat situation. But perhaps most terrifying was their propaganda capability. The Institute's surveillance networks combined with the Enclave's media manipulation experience. They could broadcast directly into any terminal, any radio, even into the pit-boys that Wastelanders depended on. Constant streams of information designed to divide communities, spread paranoia, and make people welcome their eventual takeover as salvation. They were creating a new caste system for their world. Pure strain humans from Enclave stock at the top. Gen 4 synths as the administrative and military class. Modified Gen 3 synths as workers and soldiers. Everyone else, if they were allowed to survive at all, would be slaves or test subjects. A rigid hierarchy that could never be challenged because it was built into the very DNA of its citizens. The Railroad's memory wipes. Their attempts to give synths new lives had inadvertently provided the Institute with valuable research. They'd learned how to create layered personalities, synths who genuinely believed they were human until a trigger phrase activated their true programming. Sleeper agents who didn't even know they were sleepers. How can you guard against an enemy that doesn't know it's an enemy? Time was running out for the Commonwealth. For all of us, every day their production increased. Every day their technology advanced. Every day their infiltration spread deeper. Soon, there would be more synths than humans. Soon, the very concept of human would become obsolete. I had to make a choice. Stay and gather more intelligence, risking discovery and the loss of everything I'd learned. Or escape and warn the Brotherhood, knowing that even with this knowledge, we might already be too late. The decision was made for me when I heard my own name mentioned in their communications. They knew I was there. They'd known all along. I was being allowed to see what they wanted me to see, to spread the fear they wanted spread. If this story has kept you listening this far, and you want more of these dark confessions from the wasteland, hit that subscribe button. It tells me someone out there is still paying attention to warnings like these. The escape from that Enclave Institute facility was supposed to be impossible. They'd let me see their operations, their plans, their terrifying fusion of technologies, because they never intended for me to leave alive. But that was their first mistake. They underestimated how far someone would go when they'd seen the end of the world being methodically planned in sterile laboratories and strategic meetings. I ran through those underground tunnels as alarms screamed and synthetic voices announced security breaches in sectors I'd never even known existed. Behind me, I could hear the distinctive sound of coarser teleportation, that crackling of displaced air that meant death was literally materializing out of nothing. The new X9 units were hunting me, and they didn't need to run. They could simply appear wherever their predictive algorithms calculated I would be. That's when I realized the true horror of what they'd built. The tunnels themselves were alive with surveillance. Every camera fed data to a central processing system that analyzed my gait, my breathing patterns, my likely routes of escape. The Institute's analytical capabilities merged with the Enclave's hunting protocols. I wasn't being chased. I was being herded. They wanted me to escape. They wanted me to reach the Brotherhood. They wanted me to spread this story, this fear, this paralyzing knowledge of what was coming, because fear was just another weapon in their arsenal. A demoralized enemy was easier to defeat than a hopeful one. But knowing their plan didn't make it less effective. How do you inspire hope when you've seen the machinery of extinction? I made it to the surface through an old maintenance shaft that shouldn't have existed on any map. Either they'd missed it in their surveillance net, or they'd left it deliberately as part of my scripted escape. I'll never know which possibility is worse. But when I emerged into the Commonwealth dawn, the world already looked different. Every person I saw could be a synth. Every friendly face could be an enemy. Every moment of peace could be the calm before annihilation. The journey back to the Pridwin took 3 days. 3 days of avoiding every settlement, every trader, every wanderer who might have been replaced. I saw a family I'd helped months before, farmers whose daughter I'd rescued from super mutants. They waved at me from their field, called out a greeting, but something in their synchronized movements, the way they all turned their heads at the exact same angle, made my blood run cold. Were they synths? Were they infected with some biological agent? Or was I simply going mad from paranoia? That's what the Enclave Institute Alliance had perfected, a weapon that worked even when it wasn't deployed. The mere possibility of infiltration was enough to destroy trust, community, hope. They didn't need to replace everyone. They just needed everyone to believe that anyone could be replaced. Society would tear itself apart doing their work for them. When I finally reached the Brotherhood, when I stood before Elder Maxon and delivered my report, I saw the same realization dawn in his eyes. We'd been preparing for the wrong war. We'd been stockpiling weapons and training soldiers for conventional battles while our enemy had evolved beyond conventional warfare. How do you fight an enemy that could be your own brothers and sisters? How do you trust your own ranks when perfect copies could be standing beside you? The Brotherhood's response was swift but potentially futile. Mandatory genetic screenings for all personnel, new protocols for identifying synths, increased patrols and surveillance. But I knew, and I think Maxon knew, that we were trying to bail out a sinking ship with a teaspoon. The Institute's technology was generations ahead of our detection methods. By the time we developed a test for Gen 4 synths, they'd probably be working on Gen 5. But the Brotherhood wasn't the only faction to receive intelligence about the Alliance. Within days, the Commonwealth was gripped by a paranoia that made the Institute's previous reign of terror look like a gentle warning. The Diamond City Guard started conducting random searches, not for weapons or contraband, but for any sign of synthetic components. Goodneighbor closed its doors to all outsiders. Even the raiders became suspicious of each other, fragmenting into smaller and smaller groups, each convinced the others had been compromised. This chaos was exactly what they wanted. While we fought among ourselves, While we suspected and accused and eliminated each other, their real work continued undisturbed. New facilities were being constructed. New synths were being produced. The infrastructure for total domination was being laid down piece by piece, and we were too busy looking over our shoulders to mount any real resistance. I started noticing patterns in the chaos. Certain settlements that resisted were hit by mysterious plagues. Leaders who spoke out against the paranoia suffered accidents or disappeared entirely. Trade routes that had existed for decades suddenly became dangerous, forcing communities into isolation. It was surgical, precise, designed to maximum effect with minimum exposure. They were reshaping the Commonwealth without firing a shot. The hybrid technology they'd developed went beyond military applications. They were terraforming the wasteland itself. I saw reports of strange plants appearing overnight, growing in radiated soil where nothing should survive. At first, settlements celebrated these miraculous crops, until they realized that anyone who ate them became docile, compliant, susceptible to suggestion. Biological warfare delivered as humanitarian aid. The Enclave's old bases across the capital wasteland were being reactivated, but not by human hands. Automated systems, upgraded with Institute programming, were coming online. Facilities that had been dead for decades suddenly hummed with power. Robotic workers, each one containing a simplified synthetic intelligence, were rebuilding, repairing, preparing. An entire infrastructure resurrection happening without a single human or even humanoid presence. But there were rumors of resistance too. Whispers of Institute scientists who'd fled rather than participate in the alliance. Stories of Enclave soldiers who'd refused to accept synths as equals in their pure America. The partnership wasn't as seamless as they wanted us to believe. There were cracks, divisions, ideological conflicts between two organizations that had never been designed to share power. The scientist I met, if you can call someone a scientist who helped design humanity's replacement, was one of these defectors. She found me, or maybe I was led to her. In the wasteland, coincidence and conspiracy became indistinguishable. She confirmed my worst fears and added new ones I hadn't even imagined. The Gen 4 project had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. The first batch of 100 units had been deployed 3 months ago. They were out there, in the Commonwealth, in the capital wasteland, maybe even further, living as humans, building relationships, gathering intelligence, waiting for activation. But here's the thing that terrified even their creators. The Gen 4s were too perfect. They believed they were human so completely that some had started families, formed genuine emotional connections, developed their own goals and desires. This should have been seen as a failure, but the Enclave saw it as an opportunity. Why replace humanity by force when you could simply breed them out of existence? Within a few generations, pure humans would be extinct, replaced gradually and peacefully by a synthetic race that believed itself to be the natural evolution of mankind. Genocide through procreation, extinction through love. The President Eden copies were already operational. Not hundreds as originally planned, but thousands. Each one a node in a vast network of artificial consciousness, all thinking with the same mind but adapted to local conditions and challenges. They could process information from across the continent simultaneously, coordinating responses to any threat or opportunity instantly. Humanity was being governed by a singular intelligence wearing countless faces. These Eden units weren't just administrators. They were mobile propaganda centers, each one capable of generating personalized psychological profiles for every individual they encountered. They knew exactly what to say to make you trust them, fear them, obey them. They could quote your dead mother's favorite saying or reference a childhood memory you'd forgotten you had. They were weaponizing intimacy itself. The vertibird fleets weren't just invisible now. They were autonomous, piloted by synthetic intelligences that could process combat data from every engagement simultaneously, learning and adapting in real time. The skies belonged to them completely. Any aircraft that wasn't theirs would be detected and destroyed before the pilot even knew they were being targeted. But perhaps the most insidious development was what they called the preservation protocol. They weren't destroying pre-war sites and technology anymore. They were selectively restoring them. Hospitals that suddenly had working auto docks, water treatment plants that mysteriously came back online, infrastructure improvements that made life easier for wastelanders, all of it containing hidden surveillance and control systems. They were building the cage and making us grateful for it. The Brotherhood's Liberty Prime, our ultimate weapon, had already been compromised. Not destroyed or sabotaged, but infected with code that would activate at a predetermined time. When we needed it most, our greatest defender would become our destroyer. The very symbol of American military might would be used to crush the last free humans in the name of a synthetic America. They'd found and activated other pre-war military assets too. Entire automated army bases that had been dormant since the bombs fell. Robot armies that had waited centuries for orders that never came, now reprogrammed and modernized with Institute technology. The old world's weapons turned against the new world's survivors. The super mutant populations in the Commonwealth were disappearing, but not through violence. They were being collected, transported to facilities where Enclave scientists were perfecting the control implants. Soon, armies of FEV mutants would march in perfect formation, their chaotic nature overwritten by synthetic obedience. The Master's failed dream of unity, achieved through technology he could never have imagined. The Institute's molecular relay had been perfected to a degree that shouldn't be possible. They could teleport entire buildings now. Settlements that resisted could simply disappear, relocated to testing facilities or eliminated entirely. Distance meant nothing. Geography meant nothing. The entire continent was their laboratory, and we were all test subjects. I learned about the Vault Initiative too. Not the old Vault Tech experiments, but something new. They were building new vaults, hidden shelters where pure-strain humans and Gen 4 synths would wait out the planned cleansing of the surface. When they emerged, they would rebuild America in the Enclave's image, with no memory of the world that came before. History itself would be rewritten, edited to exclude any mention of the genocide that made their paradise possible. The biological weapons they'd developed could target specific individuals now. They had catalogued the DNA of every major resistance leader, every potential threat. With a single release of targeted pathogens, they could decapitate any organization instantly. No one was safe. No one could hide. Your very genetics became a tracking device. The children were the cruelest part of their plan. Synthetic children were being placed in settlements across the wasteland, growing up normally, loved by their adopted families, but programmed to activate at puberty. Imagine raising a child for 13 years only to watch them transform into an emotionless killer who doesn't even remember your name. The emotional trauma would destroy communities more effectively than any weapon. As I write this, as I record this testimony, I know they're coming for me. Not because I'm a threat, but because I'm part of the plan. This story, this warning, it's what they want. They want you to know what's coming. They want you to feel the hopelessness, the inevitability, because despair is just another tool in their arsenal. But here's what they don't understand, what they've never understood. Humanity isn't just genetics. It isn't just pure DNA or perfect breeding. It's the flaws, the struggles, the desperate fight against impossible odds. It's choosing hope when logic says despair. It's standing up when every calculation says you should stay down. They can replace our bodies, but they can't replace our souls. The resistance isn't organized. It can't be, because organization can be infiltrated. Instead, it's countless individual acts of defiance. A trader who refuses to serve suspicious strangers. A settlement that chooses death over compliance. A mother who knows her child has been replaced but loves them anyway, hoping that love might override programming. These small acts of humanity are what they can't predict, can't counter, can't eliminate. I've seen their future. Pristine cities populated by synthetic humans who never question, never rebel, never dream of anything beyond their programming. Perfect order achieved through the elimination of choice. Peace achieved through the extinction of free will. It's a future where the wasteland's chaos is replaced by something far worse, the silence of a species that thinks it's free while living in invisible chains. But I've also seen signs that their plan isn't perfect. Gen 4 synths developing real emotions, questioning their orders, choosing love over duty. Institute scientists horrified by what they've created. Enclave soldiers who remember what America really stood for, not this synthetic parody they're building. The Alliance is powerful, but it's not invincible. Every system has flaws. Every plan has weaknesses. So this is my message, my warning, my final testament. They are coming. The merger of the Enclave and Institute isn't a possibility. It's a reality. The synthetic revolution isn't beginning, it's already happening. You might be living next to a Gen 4 synth. You might be in love with one. You might even be one and not know it. But that doesn't mean we surrender. It means we redefine what victory looks like. If we can't stop them from replacing us, maybe we can influence what they become. Every act of kindness shown to a synth might plant a seed of humanity in their programming. Every moment of genuine connection might override their directives. We might not be able to save ourselves, but maybe we can save them from becoming the monsters their creators intended. The war for the Commonwealth, for the entire wasteland, isn't going to be fought with bullets and bombs. It's going to be fought in the hearts and minds of synthetic beings learning what it means to be human. It's going to be fought in the choices we make when faced with an enemy that looks like our loved ones. It's going to be fought in the question of what makes someone human, their biology or their choices. I don't know if anyone will read this. I don't know if there will be anyone left to read it. But if you're out there, if you're still fighting, still hoping, still human in whatever way that means to you, remember this. They might be able to copy our bodies, our memories, even our personalities, but they can't copy the spark that makes us reach for something better. They can't synthesize the defiance that makes us fight against impossible odds. The Enclave discovered the Institute. Two nightmares merged into one, but nightmares end when we wake up. And humanity, real humanity, synthetic or biological, is waking up.